Hey, Wide Awake family. If you see this, it's your sign to smash that like button. Yes, you listening right now. That way YouTube shows you more amazing stories like this one. We love you all. Now enjoy the stories.
I always thought it was kinda cute when someone brings a gift on a first date. Shows effort, right? But the second I saw the box he carried under his arm, something felt off. It wasn't wrapped in pretty paper or ribbon. It was just a plain black box with a metal latch, kinda heavy from the way he held it. He sat across from me at the cafe patio and placed it between us like he was the main guest of the night. He said he brought me something special. I laughed awkward because we barely knew each other. He said I can only open it if I agree to a second date. I thought he was joking. I joked back like, wow, bribery already. But he smiled too still, like he wasn't joking at all. We ordered drinks. He didn't take his eyes off the box. It sat there on the table like a secret that wanted to breathe. He asked if I was excited. I said I didn't even know what it was. He said that's what makes it exciting. Then he leaned in and whispered, but you have to promise. Say yes first. I tried to move the conversation somewhere normal. I asked about his hobbies and he talked about collecting weird antiques. Old music boxes, broken clocks, stuff from flea markets. He said he likes saving things other people throw away. The way he said saving made it sound like he rescued souls, not objects. Every time I mentioned anything not related to the box, he went right back to it, asking if I wanted to guess what was inside. I said no. He stared at me like I was ruining his moment. He told me most people would be dying to know. I told him maybe I'm trying to enjoy the date first. Then the box moved. I didn't imagine it. A tiny thump inside, just enough to tilt the lid slightly. He slapped his hand on top, pretending like nothing happened. He smiled again way too wide and said it's interactive. I laughed nervously and told him seriously what's in there. He said I'd have to agree to the second date. Another thump. Louder, like something hit the inside wall. I tried to stand up. I said I needed the toilet. He put his hand gently but firmly on my wrist. He said don't leave the surprise. It doesn't like being ignored. I froze. My skin tightened under his grip. He let go, but the message stayed. I sat again slowly. The box shifted by itself, tiny scrape sounds on the wood table. I wanted to scream, but there were people all around us, eating and chatting like it was a normal night. Nobody noticed the box. Nobody noticed him staring at me like I belonged to him already. He said what would make you say yes. I said I don't agree to anything without knowing details. He leaned closer, so close I could smell peppermint gum and something sore behind it. He whispered, I spent a long time choosing this for you. I looked at the latch. Tiny scratches near it like fingernails or claws trying to escape. I told him I don't like surprises. He said then learn to like them. His tone wasn't friendly anymore. It was low, hungry even. Thump. The box jumped an inch. He laughed softly like that made him happy. He said it's almost time. I said time for what? He said time to decide. I stood again. This time I pulled my arm quickly so he didn't grab it. I said I'm leaving. He said you can't walk away now. He said the box knows you. He tapped the lid gently and the thing inside responded with 2 knocks back. 2 perfect knocks. Like communication. My legs wanted to run but my brain was stuck in place. He said if you leave, it will follow. He said it only listens to him sometimes. He said he trained it to like me. Trained, like it was alive, like it had preferences, like I wasn't the first. I glanced around for help, but everyone was lost in their own food and conversations. He slid the box closer to me. I could see tiny air holes drilled near the sides, like someone wanted the thing inside to breathe just enough. He said open it. I said no. He said say yes, and this all becomes fun. I shook my head. He sighed like he was disappointed I wasn't easy. I needed something that made everything worse. He unlatched the box. Not fully, just enough to show the tiniest gap, enough to see movement inside. Pale, fleshy movement, something pressed against a crack, something with skin. I jumped away from the table and knocked my chair down. He clamped the latch shut again quickly, but that half second was enough. Whatever was inside wasn't an animal toy. It wasn't batteries. It was alive, and it was not okay. He said you ruined the reveal. He said now it's going to be grumpy. I pushed past a waiter and ran straight into the street. He yelled my name, but I didn't look back. I sprinted across traffic until horns blared and people shouted. I just kept running. I ducked into a corner store and hid between aisles until I couldn't hear him anymore. I stayed there shaking until I called a ride. When I got home, I locked every door and sat with a kitchen knife in my hand like it would do anything. My phone buzzed. Block number. I stupidly opened the message. A photo. Of the box. Open this time. Whatever was inside was blurred like it moved too fast. A pale hand, maybe. Tiny fingers. A mouth shape. Something that shouldn't exist. Caption under it said, "It misses you already." I blocked the number, but new ones appeared. Messages saying say yes before it gets angry. Messages saying I promised. Messages saying it knows you're sent. 2 nights later, I heard scratching under my window. Not loud. Just a small polite scratch like tapping. Like something asking to come in. I didn't look. I didn't move until sunrise. Now every time I hear a sound outside my house, I picture that box. I picture the latch lifting by itself. I picture small pale fingers curling around the edge, waiting for me to agree. First dates in someone's house are already a bit risky, but she made it sound casual enough that I didn't want to look paranoid. She said she doesn't like bars because people stare too much. She said she doesn't like restaurants because the food never feels real. She said she doesn't live alone, but her roommates keep to themselves, and I probably wouldn't even notice they were there. That made it sound less awkward, honestly. If there were other people around, it wasn't just me and a stranger. Her house looked normal from outside. Regular neighborhood, bikes on porches, curtains half open on windows. She opened the door and greeted me with this big excited grin like she'd been waiting all day to see me. She hugged me and told me to come inside because she made snacks. I slipped my shoes off and the place seemed clean enough. Warm lights, candles smelling like vanilla, cute little decorations everywhere. We sat on the couch and talked about normal stuff at first. She asked if I wanted crisps or cookies. She joked that she made them herself, but then admitted they were from the store. I laughed. Everything seemed fine, except she kept glancing down the hallway every few minutes like she was checking if someone was watching. I reminded myself she said she had roommates. Maybe she didn't want them to come out and embarrass her or something. She asked what time I usually go to bed, if I ever travel alone, if my friends knew where I was right now. The question sounded kind of sweet at first, like she cared about my life, but then they got weirdly specific. She asked if I had any allergies to certain kinds of food or blankets. Blankets? I just laughed it off and said no. Halfway through the movie we were watching, I needed the toilet. She pointed me down the hallway and told me it was the second door on the right. She said don't open any other doors because her roommates might be asleep. I said okay and started walking. The hallway felt darker than the living room, like the light bulbs were dim on purpose. The air felt colder too. I passed the first door. Wood. Locked. I kept walking. Then right before I got to the toilet door, I heard something. A whisper or breathing. Then a voice quietly saying help. I froze. I thought maybe someone was joking around or watching TV in one of the rooms. I waited a second, but there were more sounds. Soft crying. Someone saying please. Someone else calling out hello in a tired, broken voice. I stepped closer thinking maybe a window was open and sound was coming from outside. But the sound wasn't outside. It was behind the wrong door. The one she told me not to open. I should have walked away. I should have just peed and gone back to the couch. But my curiosity punched harder than my sense. I pressed my ear to the door and someone whispered from the other side, "Don't come here. She'll make you like us." Then a deeper voice hissed next pet. My heart slammed in my ribs so loud I thought it would echo. I reached for the handle because I needed to see if this was real or if my mind was messing with me. Door unlocked. I pushed slowly. A crack first, then a little more. The smell hit first. Sweat. Dirt. Fear. Then the light flickered on by itself from movement, and I read what I saw instantly. Cages. Real metal cages like for dogs, but bigger. Stacked along the walls. Inside them were people. Some curled up, some gripping the bars, some staring at me with wide, scared eyes. One person had a collar around their neck. Another had bandages on their wrists. They all looked exhausted, like they'd been there for days or longer. A woman closest to me reached through the bars and grabbed my sleeve weakly. She whispered, "You have to run." She said she lied to you. She doesn't have roommates. She collects. Collects, like we were objects, like we were animals. Someone from the corner said he's next. Someone else said don't let her lock the door. I stepped back so fast I almost fell. The floor creaked under my shoes, and that tiny sound was enough to trigger chaos. The people in the cages started begging quietly, please, please don't tell her. Someone cried quietly into their knees. I stared at them in horror because I didn't know how something like this could exist without anyone noticing. I shut the door slowly, not wanting it to slam and alert her. I rushed into the toilet pretending everything was fine, hands shaking, heart racing, sweat dripping down my neck. I pretended to flush and wash my hands to make noise. I looked at myself in the mirror, trying not to look like someone who just discovered a nightmare. I walked back toward the living room, rehearsing in my head how to act normal. Don't run. Running would make sound. Someone would bring her too fast. But when I reached the couch, she wasn't sitting anymore. She was standing behind it perfectly still, head tilted slightly, watching me, like she knew exactly which door I opened. She smiled small and said, "You took a bit long." Her voice didn't match her face anymore. Smile but dead eyes. I said, "Sorry, my stomach hurt." I tried to move casually, slide a bit farther from her, but she stepped closer. She said, "I hope my friends weren't too loud." She said they get excited when someone new arrives. I pretended to check my phone. I said my friend messaged me asking me to come home. She said that's rude. She said we're not done yet. She tapped her nails on the back of the couch like she was thinking which cage would suit me. She asked if I could stay the night. She said there's room for me where all her pets sleep. I told her I really needed to go. I grabbed my jacket slowly. She blocked the hallway with her body. Every exit behind her now. She smiled again, too sweet. She said, "Don't ruin it." She said, "You'll love your spot once you settle in." I acted like I dropped my keys and bent down. Instead of picking anything up, I shoved the coffee table hard into her legs and sprinted past her before she could grab me. She yelled something angry that didn't sound like words. I threw myself at the front door, undid the lock, and ran outside barefoot with my shoes in my hand. I didn't stop running until I reached a main road full of headlights and noise and people who would hear me scream if I needed to. I called the police as soon as I could breathe again. They went to the house, but of course they said they didn't find any cages or any other people living there. They said the room was empty. Like she moved everything in minutes, like the pets never existed. I blocked her number, but I still get messages from random accounts sometimes. Messages that say "miss you next pet." Messages that say the cage is ready again. Messages that say "don't make her come find me." And sometimes in the dark, I swear I can hear a metal door shutting somewhere far away, like someone new didn't run fast enough. I always thought meeting someone for drinks in a busy place would make everything safe. Loud music, friends laughing at the bar, staff everywhere. Nothing creepy can happen when you're surrounded by normal life, right? I guess that's what makes this story even worse. There were people all around me, and I still didn't realize I was having a drink with someone who already knew how I looked when I slept. We matched like 2 days before. Quick jokes, shared memes, a few voice notes. He seemed relaxed, easy to talk to. He asked if I wanted to grab some cocktails after work, and I agreed without thinking twice. He looked normal when I got there. Better than his photos, honestly. Clean hoodie, fresh haircut, big smile. We sat near the window and ordered the cheapest drinks because neither of us wanted to pretend we were richer than we are. We talked about jobs and Yumi and random Dumpty shows. He laughed easily. Like everything I said was worth listening to. He didn't interrupt, and that made me feel comfortable fast. Too fast, probably. The bartender messed up his drink, and he just laughed it off. Not the type to freak out at tiny things. I like that. At first. Then the questions started. Not the usual getting to know you stuff. He asked if I live alone. I said yeah, with a roommate, but she travels a lot, so she's barely home. He nodded too slowly at that. Then he asked how strong our front door lock was. I thought he was joking and said I never tested it. He asked if our windows faced the street or the back. I told him back because it was quieter. He asked how high my bedroom window was and if the curtains fully covered it at night. I stared at him like, what are you writing a burglary essay? He chuckled and said he just worries about safety. He said he live alone too and double checks everything. I tried to brush it off, but then he asked what time I usually fall asleep and if I sleep with headphones. He even asked whether my window had a latch or a sliding lock. My stomach twisted a bit. I told him those were weird questions. He shrugged like I was overreacting and then changed the topic back to movies and music. But he never looked uncomfortable asking those things, like he was gathering information and testing my reaction. The drinks kept coming because I didn't want to seem rude or paranoid. I tried to enjoy the moment again. He kept his phone face down whenever it buzzed. Most people do that, but with everything he asked, it suddenly felt suspicious. He excused himself to the bathroom after an hour and left his phone on the table. It lit up with a notification, but the screen didn't lock. I don't usually go through people's phones, but the wallpaper caught my eye. It was me. Not a selfie. Not a photo from online. A picture of me in bed, sleeping, hair messy on my pillow, mouth slightly open. Taken from above like someone leaned over me in the dark. I felt my whole body go tight. My brain tried to tell me it was someone who just looked like me, but I recognized the blanket pattern instantly. Tiny blue stars. My blanket. My room. I stared so hard my eyes burned. He had other notifications popping up too. Messages from someone named Watcher. Messages like got another one tonight in same window as before and she sleeps like an angel. I nearly threw up right there. I put his phone down quickly before he came back and forced my breathing calm. He returned smiling like nothing was wrong. Asked if I wanted another drink. He didn't notice I was shaking. I said I needed air and stood up. He stood too quickly like he didn't want me walking anywhere alone. He offered to walk me home. He said he knew the way. He smiled when he said that, and I saw something behind his eyes finally. Obsession, recognition, ownership. I said my roommate was waiting for me. He said that's impossible. She's out of town. He said my window faced the garden so no one could see me sleep except someone right there. He said I looked cute when I twitch in my sleep like I'm dreaming something funny. My knees almost gave out. I said I needed to go to the bathroom, and he grabbed my wrist gently, not letting me move past him, still smiling, still talking softly. He said I shouldn't lie to him. He said we already know each other better than that. I yanked my hand free and walked straight out the door. Just walked. Didn't look back. I heard him call out, but I kept walking faster. I turned the corner and then another until I reached a crowded bus stop and jumped on the first bus. Didn't care where it went. When I got off, I texted my roommate and begged her not to come back alone. I told her to meet me somewhere else. I was too scared to go home. That picture wouldn't leave my head. That wallpaper. Me asleep like I'm safe. Police asked how he got in. I had no answer. Maybe the lock isn't good. Maybe the window latch is weaker than I thought. Maybe he came more than once and never woke up. They said he probably found the picture online, but I know my room. I saw my posters in the background. The tiny rib in the curtain. The glass of water on my bedside. He was there. I changed my locks the next day. New curtains. Extra alarms. I sleep with lights on now. Every night I wake up thinking someone is standing over me again. Sometimes I swear I hear soft breathing beside my bed. A phone camera click. His profile vanished from the app. Number disconnected. No name on police records, like he never existed. But someone existed long enough to take that photo, to stand inches away from my face while I dreamed. And sometimes when my phone lights up in the dark and I see my own reflection on the screen, I picture myself on someone else's wallpaper tonight.
Hey guys, really sorry to interrupt. If you're still listening, then you're enjoying the story so far. And if you are enjoying, then please hit that like button. That's all I ask of you. Thanks so much. Now back to the stories.
She seemed artsy and fun when we talked online. She loved styling hair and making outfits. She said she wanted to be a designer one day. She sounded harmless. She suggested hanging out at her place because she wanted to show me something cool she made. I thought maybe she crafted clothes or painted stuff. I didn't expect the nightmares she kept behind her door. Her house was small but colorful. She had posters of random fashion shows and models everywhere. When she opened the door, she hugged me real tight like we'd known each other forever. She smelled like shampoo and coffee. She told me to ignore the mess because she had been working all day. I stepped inside and everything looked kind of normal at first. Couch, TV, little plants, some wigs on stands near the wall. Hair styling tools on a desk. She definitely wasn't lying about loving hair. She asked if I wanted a drink. I said sure and sat down while she went into the kitchen. I looked at the wigs more closely. They were cheap costume wigs. They looked real. Human hair real. The stands had name tags on them, but I didn't pay too much attention yet. I figured they were like mannequin names or style names. She came back holding drinks and said she was excited to show me her collection. She bounced on her toes like a little kid about to open presents. I smiled awkward because I didn't really know how to act around someone so hyped over hair. She grabbed my hand and pulled me toward a door near the back of the house. She said what's behind this door is her passion. She flipped the light on and dragged me in. The room was bigger than the living area. The entire wall shelves were filled with wig stands. Dozens. Every head had hair styled different. Long curls, short cuts, dyed red, dyed blonde, shaved sides, ponytails. Everything. All perfectly cleaned and brushed. She looked at them with this proud glow on her face like they were trophies. I said, "Wow, you really love hair." She nodded fast and told me each one had a story. She said real hair carries the life of the person it belonged to. I froze a second. Belonged to? She said it in a way that made it sound like those people don't have their hair anymore. Like it wasn't donated, like she took it. I forced a laugh and asked where she bought them. She smirked and said I didn't buy them. I'd make them. I asked if she meant sewing them together and she said no. She brushed a wig gently and whispered I collect them myself. I didn't like where this was going, so I tried to change the subject, but she pointed to a corner of the room I hadn't noticed yet. Behind all the wigs taped across the back wall were photos. Dozens, grainy stills. Pictures from hallways, shops, bus stops, all from security cameras. Every single one showed someone who had no hair. Heads shaved completely smooth. People crying. People walking fast with hats pulled down. One picture had a guy curled up on the ground in a parking lot, head bare and bruised. My pulse jumped into my throat. She followed my eyes and giggled like we were looking at a scrapbook. She said those are the finished ones. Finished. She said when she takes a person's hair, she leaves them like that. She said it's a fair trade. She gets beauty, they get a lesson. I stepped back slightly, but she grabbed my shoulder gently and told me not to be scared. She said she wouldn't make me part of the wall as long as I didn't try to leave early. She stroked my arm slowly, eyes fixed on my hair. I could literally see her imagining me bald. She even reached up and touched my head like she was testing the thickness. I said I'm not a big fan of hair stuff, but she interrupted and said she read my profile and I seemed perfect. She said she always wanted someone with hair like mine. She said I should be honored because she only collects the best. I laughed again because fear makes you stupid sometimes. She told me to pick a wig for fun. She said we can dress up together. She said it'd look amazing in one of her creations. I said maybe later, trying to keep things calm. She didn't like that. Her smile twitched like a glitch in a video game. She said fine, then choose one for me instead. She spun around and told me to choose from her favorites near the mirror. I walked over pretending to pick something but really eyeing the exit. Her voice got lower. She said I shouldn't try anything dumb. She's caught others running before. She said those ones didn't get to walk out with their hair. I stared at the door handle. Too far. She was between me and the hallway. I couldn't push her without risking her going full psycho with scissors or whatever tools she used. I needed a distraction. I pointed to a wig high up and said, "What's that one called?" She turned slightly to look and I grabbed a heavy wig stand and chucked it at the light switch. The room flashed dark. She screamed in surprise and I sprinted past her. I shoved her just enough to move her aside. She grabbed a handful of my shirt, but I ripped away and stumbled into the hallway. I ran through the house without even knowing which way was out. Slamming into a shelf, knocking over something that shattered. She yelled my name like she owned it. I hit the front door hard and fumbled with the lock. It clicked open and I bolted outside into the street. I didn't stop running until I saw cars. Actual cars. Actual people. I called the taxi, shaking so bad I could barely talk. I watched the house from a distance. She never came outside. Maybe she wasn't worried. Maybe she thought she could find me again whenever she wanted. Maybe she memorized everything about me already. I told the police, but like usual, they didn't find anything. No photos on the wall. No wig room. No signs of anything wrong. They said she looked normal and said I must have misunderstood. They suggested maybe the wigs were store-bought. I changed my hair the next week. Cut it shorter. Dyed it different. I keep checking behind me in shops. I feel like every camera is staring at my head, waiting. She could be anywhere, watching, planning. And every time I see someone with a shaved head now, I wonder if they used to have hair like mine before they met her, whether they tried to escape too. Everyone says first dates should be simple. Coffee, dinner, something normal. But he wanted something unique. He said he had access to a museum after hours because his cousins supposedly were security. He promised it would be quiet and cool and different. I thought that actually sounded kind of fun. Plus, museums have lights, guards, alarms. It felt safer than someone's house or a random woods trip. He picked me up right before sunset. He wore nice clothes and brought snacks in a small bag like we might get hungry walking around. He kept saying I was going to love this, and he couldn't wait to show me his favorite pieces. He talked like someone who really liked history, not someone about to drag me into the worst moment of my life. The museum looked normal on the outside, big old building with columns and banners, but when we walked in, the whole lobby was dark. No front desk worker. No lights except security strips glowing blue along the floor. I asked if his cousin was around, and he said he'd already let us in. He said security systems are off for maintenance. He held my hand like he knew I was nervous. He led me past the gift shop and into the first gallery. Dim spotlights lit up displays behind glass. At first, everything seemed fine. Ancient objects, descriptions on plaques, the usual. He talked about each one like he'd memorized the details. But after a while, he stopped looking at the displays and started looking at me more like I was what he was studying. We walked further into a hall with big scenes set up, like mannequins posed like they're doing tasks from different time periods. A woman knitting, a man selling fruit, a kid sitting at a school desk. The figures looked real, but museums always make hyper-realistic stuff, so I didn't think much of it. Until I noticed the breathing. A tiny chest rising, falling. I blinked hard. I stared at the woman knitting. Her fingers twitched like a dream. I told myself it was a trick of the light. But then the man selling fruit had tears drying on his cheeks. Real ones. His eyes closed, but the lashes glistened. I stepped back. My throat felt too tight to swallow. I asked him what kind of exhibit this was. He smiled like I was finally paying attention. He said it's one of a kind. The only museum of the past stays alive. He said he hated fake displays, so they use real people instead. He said these people have volunteered to become art. Volunteered. None of them looked like they volunteered. All of them were perfectly still but too still. Bodies go soft when they sleep, but these looked posed. Locked, like someone forced their limbs into positions and they couldn't move. I whispered, "Are they breathing?" He said yes. Isn't it beautiful? I shook my head. I said we need to go now. He frowned like I insulted him. He said don't worry. They can't talk or move. The drugs keep them calm. He said the museum pays well. He said everyone here is meant to be admired. Admired by who? By him. We walked on because he kept urging me forward, gently but strong enough that I couldn't step back. We entered another room. This one darker. Only one spotlight in the center. Under it was a group of people on a fake boat, tied together like they were rowing, their wrists bruised from rope, their heads hanging forward, their mouths slightly open as if trying to whisper. I couldn't breathe. I said I wanted to leave. He said no. The next one is his favorite. I told him no again louder. He turned to me and his smile faded. He looked tired now, tired of pretending. He said, "You don't get it. This is the only place where people are captured exactly how they should be, still. Peaceful. Owned. Owned." My stomach twisted so violently, I thought I would get sick on the spot. I looked at the exit sign behind him. Too far. I needed distance, but he kept close. Then I heard a soft groan. Small. Weak. One of the people in the boat moved their fingers slowly like baiting for help. Their eyelids fluttered. He whispered, "Don't look at them. They're not finished being arranged." I took a step back and he grabbed my wrist. Too tight. I said, "Let go." He said, "You haven't seen your part yet." My part. He pulled me down another hallway. This one colder. I dug my heels in, but he was strong. I scratched at his hand, but he didn't loosen. He said I should feel honored. He found the perfect section for me. He'd been preparing. Preparing what? We reached a large final room. One spotlight again. Something covered by a white sheet stood in the center. Tall, around my height. My heart pounded like a trapped animal inside me trying to burst out. He walked ahead, excitement back in his face. He said he made this display special. He said it's personal. He pulled the sheet away. It was me. Or a mannequin of me, dressed in clothes that looked like mine. Standing perfectly straight with a smile fixed too wide. The hair was wrong, but the eyes. They looked like my eyes. Same shape. Same weird unevenness in the eyebrows. He said I belong here. He touched the mannequin's cheek like it was his masterpiece. He said, "I've been part of this museum long before I met you." He said the moment he saw me online, he knew I would fit perfectly. I ripped my arm free and bolted. I didn't think. I didn't plan. I just ran. He chased me. Footsteps so loud behind me, I felt vibrations in the floor. I darted into a different hallway and saw a red exit sign flickering. I sprinted toward it. He yelled for me to stop. He shouted that I would ruin everything. I pushed the crash bar and the door swung open. Outside, air hit me like a slap. I didn't look back until I reached the next street with people and lights and cars. Normal noise. Real life. I called the police, shaking so hard I could barely speak. They searched the museum. Found nothing. Nothing unusual. No real people in displays. No drugs. No mannequin that looked like me. The staff claimed they never closed early or allowed private tours. They said I must have misunderstood the location, must have panicked, must have mixed up details, like I invented the whole night. He blocked me on everything. His profile gone. Phone number dead. Sometimes at night I think about the mannequin smile, the exact angle of its head, the way he said I belong there. And sometimes I wake up thinking someone is arranging me while I sleep, getting me ready, putting me in place, waiting for the spotlight to turn on. I used to think picnic dates were the safest option ever created by humans. Sunshine, harmless snacks, a blanket, maybe ducks wandering around. Nothing scary about sandwiches in a park, right? I thought worst case scenario would be a wasp trying to land in my drink or the conversation getting awkward. But now every time someone suggests a picnic, I think about that day and my chest just gets tight. We matched online and she seemed sweet. Liked animals, loved fruit, always posting nice sunshine cliches about wanting fresh air after long weeks. She suggested a picnic because she didn't like restaurants. Said restaurants were too loud, too fake, too rushed. She wanted something calm where we could really talk. I thought that sounded perfect. Natural. Normal. She chose the spot. This pretty grassy field by a lake with barely anyone around. There were trees on one side and water on the other, and it looked like a postcard. She laid down a bright blanket and unpacked a big basket. Everything looked legit. She brought strawberries, apples, a whole melon, grapes. All looked fresh, clean, like grocery store perfect. She smiled at me with this excited look and pulled out a small wooden cutting board. Then she reached into the basket for a knife. Metal blade, sharp enough to reflect the sunlight like a flash. At first I didn't think too deep about it. Lots of people bring knives to cut fruit, but as she set it down, I noticed something weird. The blade wasn't clean. There were faint red stains near the handle. At first my brain tried to label it strawberry juice or watermelon juice. But strawberries don't stain dark red-brown like that. Watermelon juice doesn't look thick. This looked like dried blood, real blood. I asked if everything was good with the knife. She looked at it quickly, then shrugged like it was no big deal. She said it's fresh from earlier. I asked earlier what. She didn't answer that part. She just started slicing the melon with this slow, careful motion. The first slice looked fine, but when she turned the blade again, I saw a tiny darker smudge smear onto the fruit. She noticed me staring and asked if I didn't like melon. I said I do, but the knife looked like it needed washing. She smiled like I was overreacting and told me, "Trust me, it's fine." She said fresh is always better, right? Fresh from what, though? I tried to be normal. I ate a grape. My stomach was twisted, so I barely tasted it. She kept cutting fruit while chatting like nothing was wrong, asking me about my job and my sister, if I liked movies. But every time I blinked, the knife moved a little differently, like she was more practiced with it than anyone slicing a fruit salad should be. A fly kept circling the blade, ignoring the fruit, like it knew the difference. I asked again what she meant by fresh from earlier. She looked up and her whole face changed for a second, like she was offended. She said I shouldn't worry because none of the blood is from me. She laughed right after like that was a joke. I forced a laugh, even though my bones felt frozen. What does that even mean? None of it is from me. Okay, but from who? She passed me a piece of melon. The cut edge had a tiny dark smear. I held it but didn't eat it. She kept watching my hand like she was waiting to see me put it in my mouth. Like the smile on her face wouldn't leave until I did. I placed it down on the board slowly, saying I'm good for now. She stared at the melon slice and her smile faded just slightly. She said you should try it before it gets cold. Fruit doesn't get cold sitting in the sun. The comment made 0 sense. I said maybe I'd have some apple instead. She grabbed the apple, but the blade pushed into it too easily. A thin streak of red spread across the peel. She wiped the blade against the grass like that helped. It didn't help. The stains didn't move. That blood wasn't recent juice. It was set in. I asked if she got cut preparing, and she just said earlier again. Her voice dropped a bit. She said earlier someone didn't want to share. She looked at the lake, then back at me. Then she said, but you will share with me, right? My stomach dropped so hard I thought I'd pass out. I noticed then she didn't have a phone visible. No bag besides the picnic basket. No jacket. No keys, like she arrived here without anything personal. Just fruit and a bloody knife. She had picked the spot. She drove. I had no clue how far we were from the nearest road. I wasn't sure how to get back on my own. I looked around pretending to admire the lake, actually searching for anyone else. No one near us. Only a couple far down the other side walking a dog. Too far to shop to without making her react first. I stood and said I needed to stretch my legs. She stayed kneeling, cutting strawberries now. She said take your time, but don't go too far. Her tone had changed again. Softer but more serious, like she was warning me. I walked around a tree a few steps away and pulled my phone out. No signal. Great. I tried anyway, typing a message to my friend with our location guess. Even if it didn't send now, maybe it would send later. When I looked back, she wasn't at the blanket. The knife was still there. Fruit everywhere. But she wasn't. My chest exploded with fear. I spun around looking for her. Nothing. I called her name, but the air swallowed it. I backed toward the path slowly, and that's when I heard her behind me. She was whispering too close to my ear without me hearing her walk up. She said that I make things difficult. She said I should just relax and enjoy what she prepared. Her breath smelled like strawberries and something metallic. She stepped around me holding a new slice of fruit on the bloody knife. She pushed it toward my lips and whispered, take a bite. She said it like a threat disguised as sweetness. I said I needed the bathroom. She tilted her head, confused. I pointed toward the trees and she sighed like I was a toddler delaying bedtime. She said, don't be long. I walked normally until I was out of sight. Then I ran. Not to the car because I didn't know where it was parked. I sprinted toward the road hoping I'd find it or someone driving by. Every twig snap sounded like footsteps behind me. Every branch brushing my arm made me think the knife was coming toward my back. I reached the road and kept running until I found a cyclist who stopped when he saw tears on my face. He called a taxi for me. I didn't explain much. I just wanted distance. I blocked her on everything before I even got home. But later that night she made a new account and sent me one message. Next time I'll clean the blade so you'll eat it. I deleted the app, changed my number a week later. I still check fruit for stains like I'm searching for warnings. I always thought nature dates were the safest type of date. Daylight, other people around, cute dogs running past, birds making noise so it's not awkwardly quiet. He suggested we go for a walk in the country because he said city dates felt fake. I liked the idea. We'd only chatted a week, but he seemed decent. Normal. You never think the smiling guy who likes hiking is actually rehearsing some nightmare in his head. He picked me up from my house. He was overly polite, opening the car door like we were in some cheesy romance film. The drive started normal. Just fields and farms and random old houses. Then my signal disappeared and he said that's the point, peace and quiet. I didn't love that, but I pretended it was fine. He parked near a walking trail with a wooden sign and a little map. Nothing creepy. We started walking. The woods were tall and calm, sunlight breaking through gaps like something from a screensaver. He asked about my family, my cat, my school. And he listened like he cared. He made jokes that actually made me laugh. I remember thinking I might actually like this guy. Then it started. I saw a piece of paper pinned to a tree, like someone left a lost pet poster, except it wasn't a pet. It was me. A photo of me from last summer. Me wearing a dress at a barbecue. I froze. He kept walking like he didn't notice. I called his name and pointed. He turned, looked at the picture, and smiled casual like it was some funny coincidence. He said, "Wow, that's you. Small world, right?" Small world? In the middle of nowhere? My stomach twisted, but he swore someone probably printed it as a prank. Prank on who, though? I tried to laugh because I didn't want to look paranoid. I told myself it was a weird fluke. But then we kept walking. Another tree. Another pinned picture. Different photo. Me in a hoodie sitting on a bench from months ago. Printed clearly. Not ripped from social media. The bottom had a handwritten caption. "Always so beautiful when she waits." I felt my breathing go uneven. He laughed again. Said maybe someone is obsessed with you. Like it was a compliment. I didn't laugh back. We walked a bit more and I told him we should turn around. He ignored that, pointing out some fake pretty view ahead like he planned the route too perfectly. I followed because I didn't want him behind me if I tried to run. More trees, more photos. Some I never knew existed. One of me leaving college. One of me brushing my hair in my room. Taken through my window. One of me half asleep on the bus. I didn't remember anyone sitting near me that day. Each pinned photo had little messages like, "Love how she daydreams. She doesn't know she's almost here. Soon." My hands shook. I told him this wasn't funny anymore. He acted confused for 2 seconds, then shrugged. He said something about admiration and destiny, and how most people don't appreciate when they're special to someone. He stepped closer like he was comforting me, but his eyes didn't look like comfort. They looked proud. I tried to pull away, but he grabbed my hand, insisting we keep walking. He said we're almost there. "Almost where?" I asked. He looked up at the branches like something above us mattered. I slipped my hand out of his grip and said we should go back. He smiled too wide. He said everything was arranged for me. Arranged. I didn't want to be there anymore. I told him I was leaving and turned back the way we came. But the trees behind us now had even more photos, like they appeared when we passed. Every trunk covered like wallpaper of my life. The deeper we went, the older the photos got. Me as a kid, my first school uniform. Me holding a sparkler at bonfire night when I was like 8. I snapped at him asking how these were here. He finally dropped the act. He told me I shouldn't ruin this. He said he worked too hard. He said I didn't understand what he sacrificed to bring me here. Sacrificed. I started walking faster. He followed quietly. Too quietly. I looked around for a gap in the trees, but tall wooden fences blocked both sides, like someone built walls to keep the path exact. He said stop running. I wasn't even running, but he said it like I was already trying to escape. He said everything was planned to match the day we met. He pointed at the photos like a timeline yawned. I checked my pockets for my phone out of habit, even though I knew the signal was dead. I just wanted anything to feel safe. Nothing did. The trail led into a clearing, and there, a giant tree, thick trunk, roots twisting out like claws, and pinned front and center was the biggest picture of all. A full-body portrait of me wearing the exact outfit I had on right now, taken this morning when I was leaving my house. My legs nearly collapsed. I asked him how he got that. His smile faded into something darker. He stepped behind me, so close I could feel his breath on my neck. He whispered everyone else always saw you wrong, but I saw you perfectly. I saw you first. I saw you always. I didn't wait for more. I bolted, not down the path, into the trees, branches scraping my face and arms. I didn't care. I needed distance, needed randomness, needed somewhere he didn't map out. I heard him calling me calm, calm like he expected me to come crawling back. He said, "Come on, you can't leave the route. It's designed for you." I kept running until my lungs burned. I fell twice, got dirt in my mouth. I didn't stop. Finally, I saw a road through leaves and stumbled out onto tarmac waiting in a car until they stopped. I jumped in and told the driver to drive. He didn't ask questions. He probably saw the terror in my face. I didn't read any messages from unknown numbers after that. Locked every account. I moved my curtains permanently shut. I asked my mom to get new window locks installed. Police later checked the woods. They found nothing. No photos. No pins. No sign anyone ever printed anything. He unmatched me. Disappeared. If I didn't take a picture of one of the trees before I ran, they probably wouldn't even believe it happened. And sometimes, when I walk past trees in town, I swear I see staples in the bark where something was hung. Something recently removed. Like he's planning another walk. Just waiting for me to arrive again. I thought this date was finally something fun instead of the usual dinner awkwardness. She was into gaming like me, loved arcades, and when she suggested we go to a VR gaming room for our first hangout, I was excited. Public place, loud music, neon lights, zero pressure to be romantic too early. Perfect. She was already at the entrance when I got there, swinging her keychain in circles, smiling like she had a secret. She complimented my jacket and said we were about to have the most fun night ever. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Inside, the place looked insane. Everything dark with glowing lines and futuristic helmets hanging on racks. Screens everywhere showing people fighting zombies or running from dinosaurs. She checked us in at the counter. The employee handed us 2 wristbands with numbers printed on them and told us to follow the guide lights. She grabbed my wrist and led me to a private VR room in the back. I asked why we didn't stay in the main area, and she said those were beginner stations, and she wanted something more immersive. She said she booked a special experience. I thought that sounded sick. The room was small but high-tech, walls padded with black foam squares, wires hanging from the ceiling, and a single VR headset waiting in the middle like a crown on a stand. She told me to sit first so she could calibrate it for my height. I joked asking if she was the expert now, and she grinned, saying I have no idea how long she'd been waiting to play this with me. The way she said that made me do a double take. Waiting for what exactly? I didn't dwell on it because the guide lights on the headset turned green, meaning it was ready. I sat down and she put the headset on me gently, like placing a helmet on a soldier. She tightened the straps around the back of my head and brushed my shoulders like she was dusting me off for battle. I laughed nervously, asking what game we were playing. She didn't answer the question. She just whispered, "You're going to love this one." Darkness. Then the screen lit up. I expected a game lobby or floating menu or some tutorial. Instead, I saw me, a live shot, sitting in the exact chair I was in, same clothes, same angle, like a live security feed inside the room. I lifted my hand, and the person in the headset lifted theirs. I realized it wasn't a pre-recorded video. It was me right now. Then red text started flashing across the screen. Pure AI mode. Initiated. Steve human 10 o'clock. My chest tightened. I tried to take the headset off, but it didn't budge. She must have tightened it too much. I asked her to help remove it. She didn't answer. I said her name louder. Still nothing. The countdown ticked. 9:59, 9:58, 9:57. I stood up, panic spreading under my skin like fire. The image followed me as I moved, the camera angle shifting to show my entire body. I spun trying to find where the camera was. The screen zoomed out like someone else was controlling the view. The room door slammed shut. I yanked the headset again, but the straps dug into my scalp. I reached behind me to unclip them, but she grabbed my hands. She whispered, "Don't. You'll ruin the surprise." I froze. Her voice didn't sound playful anymore. It was calm and focused, like she practiced that line. I asked what kind of game this was. She told me it was immersive. The most real one they had. She said trust the process. I said I wanted out. She said I'd missed the fun part. I shoved past her blindly and ran my hands across the walls, trying to find the door handle. The screen view followed like a drone circling me. The countdown kept sliding lower. 8:45, 8:44, 8:43. Then the camera view in the headset changed. Split screen. On the left, we scrambled in the room. On the right, a hallway outside, dark and grainy. A group of figures standing far away, just at the edge of the frame. Motionless. Watching. One of them stepped forward. Purely DTECT. Target located. I nearly choked trying to breathe. I asked her again what the hell was happening. She told me the rules were simple. Survive until the timer ends. She said nobody ever does. I slammed my fists against the door. She laughed soft, like she pitied me. She said the doors only unlock when the timer hits 0 or when the system confirms the prey is no longer moving, meaning dead. She told me to run. Not joking. She said run now before they get inside. I tore off the headset finally by slipping a finger under the strap and ripping so hard it scraped my ear. I threw it on the ground and stumbled back. My heart hammered so hard I could hear it in my teeth. Without the VR screen, the room looked the same. Padded walls. Single door. No windows. But one thing was different. Scratches. Deep ones. High up where hands shouldn't reach naturally. Marks from someone trying to climb or fight their way up the walls. Long lines carved into the padding. Dry dark stains near the bottom like someone was dragged struggling. I looked at her. She wasn't smiling anymore. She was just staring at the door like she was waiting for something. A loud mechanical click echoed from above us. Lights flickered green. She whispered they're coming. I didn't think. I sprinted and body slammed the door with everything in me. Once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th hit, the lock jolted and the door cracked open enough to wedge my hand through and yank it. I burst into the hallway. Empty, but the air felt wrong. Cold, like things moved just out of sight. I ran, full speed. No idea where I was going. Just away. She didn't chase. She just stood in the doorway watching like I was a show she'd seen many times. My wristband started beeping loudly. I ripped it off and threw it. The hallway lights dimmed behind me as I sprinted turn after turn. Every door I tried was locked. Every sign seemed to point me deeper inside the building. I heard footsteps then. Fast ones. Not hers. More than one set. Closing in. I found a fire exit door and shoulder charged through it into a stairwell. I didn't stop until I was on the street outside, breathing like I'd run a marathon. I kept running until I reached a busy road and practically threw myself in front of a taxi. The driver yelled, but I didn't care. I screamed at him to go. Go anywhere. Police searched the VR place later. They said everything looked normal. No locked rooms. No weird staff. No traces of whatever I described. They asked if I was on drugs. I said no until my throat hurt. But last week I got a text on a number I never gave her. A video clip. Me in the room, headset on, countdown at 2:13. Captured from the perfect angle, like someone had been behind me the whole time. Message under it said, "Next time don't take the headset off." First dates aren't meant to feel like an interview with a serial liar. But this one went straight into the worst memory hall of fame the moment he walked through the cafe door. His coat was the first thing I noticed. Huge. Long. Zipped up to his neck. Thick like a winter coat, but it wasn't even cold outside. Everyone else was in light jackets or hoodies. He looked like he was hiding from weather that didn't exist. He sat down and didn't take it off. Didn't unzip. Didn't loosen it. He told me he gets cold easily. I joked that we could switch seats because the heater was right behind him. He said no instantly. Too fast. Then he smiled like he knew he messed up and went quiet. That silence that isn't normal. Like he was thinking how to lie better next. I tried to move the conversation along. He liked cartoons and old music. He talked about food and films and random life stories that sounded kind of believable. But the whole time he kept adjusting his coat with gentle hands, like he was soothing something, like someone told him not to let go. Every time the waiter walked by, he leaned forward like he didn't want anyone brushing past his back. He kept a hand across his stomach. The coat fabric bulged a bit. I thought maybe he had a weird medical device or like he was insecure or something. I tried not to stare. I made a joke and leaned in to hug him quickly because the vibe felt awkward and I wanted to lighten it a little. The moment I wrapped my arms around him, he tensed up like I shocked him. That's when I heard it. A tiny cry. Not loud, just a soft infant cry from inside his coat, muffled but real. I froze. At first my brain tried to tell me it was my imagination, maybe a ringtone or a sound from outside. But he instantly pulled away and clutched his coat with both hands, holding it shut. His eyes went wide like I'd caught him stealing. I said, "What was that?" and he said nothing. His voice too shaky to believe. I asked again louder and he looked around the cafe like the walls were listening. He whispered he didn't want to cause a scene. His eyes got glossy like he was about to cry or freak out. I stood up because my heart was thudding so loud I could feel it in my ears. He reached out and grabbed my wrist gently, but firm enough to trap me. He whispered, "Please sit down." I didn't understand what's happening yet. And then the baby cried again. No denying it. Real baby. Frightened and alive. He adjusted his coat again like he was trying to calm a child strapped to him. He said he could explain, but needed me to stay calm. I said, "Explain right now." He looked around again, then leaned close like confessing secrets and whispered she doesn't like strangers. She only stays quiet when she's with me. She. My skin went cold. I asked him whose baby that was. He said mine. I asked where the mother was. He hesitated too long. I asked if the baby was actually his. He blinked fast and said she belongs with me. Then he pulled his coat zipper down by half an inch. I saw a small blanket, a little fist pushing against fabric, a hospital wristband. My stomach flipped. I asked when she was born. He didn't answer. I asked where he got her. He shook his head like a child refusing trouble. He kept whispering she picked me. She knows I'm the only one who can keep her safe. She was supposed to be mine. Every word dug deeper into panic. I tried to pull away, but he held tight and stood up too. Suddenly, the coat wasn't just big. It was shaped around the tiny body strapped to his chest. He stepped in front of me, blocking the aisle like he thought I would run. I told him to let me go. He kept begging, please don't tell anyone. People don't understand what love is. Love. I looked at the wristband again when he shifted a bit, a hospital name I knew. It was the one in the news last week, the one where a newborn was stolen from the maternity ward. They said the kidnapper disguised themselves and walked out unnoticed. I realized it was him. And now I was in front of the child he took. I whispered that I needed to use the bathroom. He shook his head no. He said if I left, I'd tell. I said I just needed a moment and pointed to the floor like I was feeling faint so he'd think I needed help, not escape. He loosened his grip slightly, concerned, looking at my face, not my hands. I took that second. I snatched my wrist free and sprinted. Chairs fell behind me. People looked up confused. He yelled my name. Coat still zipped around the baby so he couldn't run fast. I darted past tables, through the door, into the street. I didn't stop running even when I blended into crowds. I didn't look back. I hid behind a bus stop and called the police, shaking so hard I dropped the phone twice. I told them everything. The cafe, his face, the baby, everything. When officers arrived, he was gone. No sign of him or the child. They checked cameras, but none showed where he went. It was like he vanished into a crowd holding a life that didn't belong to him. That night, the news updated the story. No suspects identified. A week later, I got a message request from an unknown number. No text, just a photo. A picture of me hugging him, from that exact moment before I heard the baby. The caption under it said, "She's safe with me. Someday, she'll meet you again." Everyone says first dates are supposed to be in public. Coffee shop, restaurant, cinema, somewhere you can run if things go weird. But I thought it'd be fine doing a movie night at her place. She lived in a decent apartment block near the high street, and she seemed normal when we chatted. Funny, not too intense, didn't send weird messages at 3 a.m. I honestly thought this one would finally be chill. The moment I walked into her living room, though, I noticed she kept looking up. Like every few seconds, her eyes lifted to the ceiling, then snapped back to me like she wasn't doing anything strange. I asked if something was up there, and she just said, "Oh, nothing. Probably just my mind wandering." Then she smiled too wide like she was covering something. We sat down on the couch, and she asked if I liked popcorn, then rushed to the kitchen without waiting for the answer. I tried to relax, scrolling on my phone, but even then I could see her shadow moving weird like she kept turning her head toward the ceiling. I thought maybe a leak or a spider or something dumb like that, but she didn't mention it again. She came back with popcorn and juice boxes like we were kids. She sat close, but not too close. We talked about our favorite movies and school and random jokes. The whole time, though, her eyes twitched upward, not slowly. Quick snaps like she expected something to fall on her. I finally asked if everything was okay, and she laughed fake and said sorry, I just thought I heard scratching earlier. My building has mice sometimes. I wasn't thrilled, but mice aren't the end of the world. I told her it didn't bother me. She nodded, but the way she bit her lip made me think it wasn't mice. We put on the film. Some action comedy. Loud enough that you'd think it would distract her. But she kept freezing mid-laugh and staring up like someone called her name from above. I tried to ignore it, but eventually she whispered, "Do you hear that?" I paused the movie and listened. Nothing. I said maybe it's neighbors. She shook her head and whispered quieter, "No one lives above me." That sentence sat in my stomach like a stone. I didn't want to panic, so I joked maybe birds snuck in. She didn't laugh. Her eyes stayed locked on one corner of the ceiling like she was waiting for something to show. We played the film again, but my focus was gone. Halfway through, I noticed marks above us, like scratches in the plaster. Small ones. Dozens of them, like little straight lines and messy patterns. I squinted harder. There were also brown smudges, faded but there. And then shapes. Handprints. Tiny ones. Kids' hands. But the fingers looked too skinny, too long. My skin turned cold, but I still tried to be chill. I told her maybe the last tenants had kids who climbed or something. She didn't look away this time. She just whispered, "They don't look like kids." She asked if we could sit on the floor instead. I said why. She said she didn't want her head near the ceiling anymore. She looked scared. Not embarrassed scared, real scared. I agreed because whatever was going on, I wasn't trying to get dropped on by a raccoon or something. We moved to sit on the carpet. She kept staring up, so I forced myself to actually look properly. That's when I saw the hatch. Small square panel near the corner. I never noticed it before. Almost blended into the ceiling. But the area around it was dirtier, like something was pushing down from the inside. The wood looked warped. The lights flickered once. She gasped. I swallowed hard and told myself electricity is just trash in old buildings. But then I heard it. A tiny fast tap, tap, tap. Directly above us. Not mice. Not pipes. Fingers. I jumped up a little, heart punching through my chest. She grabbed my arm and begged me not to move too fast. She said they can hear sudden movements. She said they get curious. I asked them who. My voice cracked like I was in year 8 again. She didn't answer. She kept staring. Tap, tap, tap. Then a soft dragging like nails scraping gently across wood. I wanted to pretend I didn't hear it, but I heard every second of it. I asked her why she didn't move out if she was scared. She whispered, "I can't. They don't let me leave alone." She said alone like it had a different meaning. I asked how long she heard them, and she said since the day she moved in. She never saw what they looked like. She just saw hands. Thin. Gray. Fast. I thought she was trying to scare me, but the tap came again harder, closer to where we were. I decided no more sitting on the floor. I stood up and told her we should go outside for fresh air. She stared at the door like stepping near was a crime. She said, "Don't make noise. Don't disturb them." I wasn't waiting for permission, though. I reached for my jacket. Then something above the hatch pressed downward, a bulge in the wood like something pushing its head against it, testing the strength. My entire body froze. Her nails dug into my arm. I stared as the hatch bent slightly, then popped back, like whatever was up there was waiting for the right moment enough to try and fail. She whispered if they come down, they don't go back up without something. I asked something like what. She didn't answer. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't move, like she accepted whatever could happen next. I grabbed her hand and pulled. She resisted at first like she thought she would make it worse. I yanked harder because I wasn't dying here. We tiptoed to the door. Every step felt too loud. I could hear my pulse in my ears. I unlocked a door painfully slow. Then that sound hit again. Rapid movement above us, scurrying, but not like animals. Too quick, too intelligent. The scratching got louder, like it heard us leaving, like it was rushing to get us before we got away. I opened the door and shoved her through. She cried, but followed. Footsteps raced above us like the ceiling was crawling. I slammed the door shut behind us and ran down the stairs, pulling her with me. Every second, I expected something to drop onto our backs. When we made it outside, we sprinted across the car park until we reached the street under a lamppost. She looked back at the building, shaking. I asked her if she had anyone she could live with. She said no. I told her I'd get her somewhere safe. Police or something. She said they already checked once and saw nothing wrong. She said the landlord pretended like he didn't hear her calls, like everyone wanted her to stay. A window creaked open on the second floor where her apartment was. The curtains moved even though no wind was blowing. A small pale hand stretched out, fingers long and twitching like it was learning how to grab. We ran again until she reached the bus station. I waited until she got on a bus before I left. I told her to stay with family. She said she'd try. I still don't know where she ended up. I blocked the number she gave me because I couldn't handle any more weird things. But sometimes when the room is quiet and I'm half asleep, I swear I hear soft taps above me. I stare at my ceiling and count marks that weren't there before. Tiny prints near the corners, like something traveled all the way here. I always think the safest date is one where the guy cooks for you. It feels homely, like he's trying. Plus, you're not trapped in his car or stuck out somewhere far. You can order an Uber if he ends up being weird. That was my thinking. And honestly, he seemed like the type that would post his meals online and brag about his spices or whatever. He sent me pictures of pasta he made before, lasagna, those desserts that looked too perfect to eat. He kept saying cooking was his love language. So I said, yeah, sure, I'll come over, why not? His flat was nice. Nothing creepy at first sight. Warm light, plants everywhere like he was trying too hard to seem gentle. He asked me to take my shoes off, which was fine. He gave me slippers, which was a little too comfy too quick, but okay. He poured me juice and told me dinner would be ready soon. He said he was making something special. I said it smelled nice. He said he knew I would say that. The kitchen looked clean except for one big pot boiling on the stove. Lid on, steam rising, the whole apartment kind of smelling like soup or stew. He told me to wait on the couch and make myself at home. I laughed, saying, don't make me get bored. He said I could explore if I wanted. He didn't hide anything. Weird thing to say, but fine. He framed photos of food on the walls. Pasta, steaks, fancy plates, all these things that look like they belong in magazines. He talked while chopping stuff, asking me questions about my family and hobbies. His voice was calm, like nothing could ever make him panic. He asked if anyone knew I was with him tonight. I said, yeah, my friend always checks in. He smiled a bit too slow at that. I kept drifting back to the kitchen because the smell was strong. Strong like herbs, but also something else that made my stomach confused. I tried to peek into the pot, but he hurried back and gently blocked me with his arm. He said patience makes everything taste better. I stepped back because his eyes didn't blink when he said that. His pupils felt too dark somehow. We sat on the couch for a bit while he told me stories about cooking competitions he wanted to enter and how he practiced all the time on new recipes. He kept staring at my hands while talking. He said I had good skin. I couldn't even respond because that compliment never feels normal. He asked if my parents cooked for me growing up. I said sometimes. He said I deserved better meals. I kind of laughed awkwardly. The timer beeped and he jumped up way too excited. He walked over to the stove and lifted the lid slowly like he wanted me to watch the reveal like some type show. The steam burst up and blocked my view for a second. Then it cleared, and that's when I saw something pale bob up to the top. A finger. A human finger. The nail was short and slightly chipped. It had skin. I saw the joint. I instantly froze because my brain wanted it to be a mushroom or something, but it wasn't. It was a finger. It spun as the bubbles pushed it around. I stared for way too long without saying a single word. He just sighed like someone spilled sauce wrong. He said that wasn't supposed to surface yet. He nudged it back down with a wooden spoon like it was a stray vegetable. He didn't even pretend it wasn't what it clearly was. My chest felt empty. No breath moving. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I think my whole body just forgot how to react. He kept stirring calmly and said the first time is always awkward. He said he hoped I would understand because good meals require sacrifices. He said people waste so much potential food in the world when it could be enjoyed. He tapped the spoon on the rim and added that he doesn't like to waste anything. I kept staring at the pot because I could see something else under the water. Not big, but enough shape to know it wasn't just fingers. Maybe a piece of palm or a wrist. I stepped back, holding onto the counter like it would keep me alive longer. He turned around and leaned on the stove like we were still flirting. He asked if I wanted to try the sauce first. He said he made it mild for me because he likes to build up the flavor slowly. He said fresh is always best. He stepped closer with the spoon like he was going to feed me. I shook my head so fast my neck hurt. I told him I wasn't hungry. He smiled like that was a joke. He said everyone is hungry. Sometimes they just don't know it yet. I remember the front door was still locked. I had seen him lock it when I arrived and the key was on the counter near the sink. I didn't want him to see me looking at it. I kept my eyes on him while stepping sideways like I was about to get sick and needed the bathroom. He told me the bathroom was left down the hall, but I said I needed fresh air. He said I would ruin the meal. I pretended my stomach hurt and bent over a little, which made him move closer to check if I was okay. And that's when I lunged for the key. He grabbed my wrist, but I twisted out of it fast, and the key slid across the floor. He lunged for it, but I kicked it under the cabinet before he could reach it. His calm face cracked a little then, like he didn't expect me to fight back. He gritted his teeth and told me not to run. He said if I ran, I would make him waste his ingredients. He stepped toward me, and I sprinted to the living room, grabbing a heavy plant pot and throwing it behind me. It shattered and slowed him for a second. I took that second and ran to the back door. Locked too. I scrambled around and found a fire escape window latch. Tiny but enough. I shoved it open and squeezed out, scraping my arms hard. He shouted my name like we were lovers arguing. He said I didn't understand what he was offering. I ignored everything and jumped the metal stairs. Almost slipped but kept going. I hit the ground running. I didn't stop until I reached a main road with people around. Lights and voices in cars. I hid behind a bus stop and called my friend, shaking. I told her to stay on the phone until she saw me. Police went to his flat but said the pot only had soup and fake props. No human parts. No signs of anything illegal. They implied I exaggerated because of the smell or the dim lighting. They didn't even question him long. They let him stay there, cooking. Sometimes I think I was just lucky the finger surfaced early. Maybe he cooked it wrong. Maybe he forgot to tie something down in the pot. Maybe I wasn't supposed to see anything until the meal was already in front of me. Sometimes I dream about a wooden spoon pushing something down under boiling water, something that might float back up one day. There's this moment in dating where you start to think maybe things will be normal for once. Like maybe this person won't go weird, won't treat you like you're a trophy or a target or a puppet. I really tried to believe that this time. She looked totally calm, pretty, chill sense of humor. She said she wasn't into social media, that she thought it ruined real-life connections and made people obsessive. It sounded refreshing. Finally, a date who wasn't glued to her phone. We met at this chill ramen spot near the cinema. She let me choose where to sit, didn't act strange about touching or photos or anything. The conversation flowed. We joked about stuff we liked. She asked questions that were actually interesting, not just boring small talk. She made me feel like she was genuinely getting to know me for the first time. No weird vibes. I even told my friend halfway through that the date was going great. She paid attention, like she knew how to make me feel seen. I asked about our hobbies, and she said she liked reading, cooking sometimes, going on long walks. I asked if she likes posting about that stuff, and she shook her head. She said she didn't have Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, anything. She said the whole online world feels fake, and she prefers life offline. I felt kind of relieved because I suck at taking photos, and I hate pretending everything I do is amazing. After ramen, we walked around a bit and eventually said goodnight. She didn't ask to come over, didn't push for anything more. She just smiled and asked if I wanted to see her again. I said yeah. She hugged me and then left in her Uber. So far, so normal. Next morning, I woke up to a random message request from an account with a weird username. Nothing in the profile picture. Nothing in the bio. I thought it was spam until I opened it. The first message said, "Good morning, handsome." I thought maybe it was her, but she said she didn't have socials, so that made no sense. I ignored it. But then another message came in. Then another. Each one was a photo. Me leaving my house that morning. Me putting on my shoes. Me locking the door. Me stretching before heading to the bus stop. All taken from a distance, like someone was watching from behind trees or from a car across the street. Captions under each. He wears the same jacket, but he still looks cute. He looks sleepy today. He likes to stretch before walking. My chest tightened because I didn't post any of those. Nobody was around. I checked the username again. It had my name in it, like some fan page. Lots of numbers after. I clicked on the profile. Thousands of posts. All of me. Every day. Different years. Going back way before I ever met her. Me at my old school. Photos from behind my house. Me at the park with my friends. Me grocery shopping. Me on the bus asleep. Me smiling when I thought nobody saw. Posts about my outfits. Posts about what time I usually leave the house. Posts about my routines. Posts about what I eat on certain days. Captions like I knew he would choose that shirt, or he always sits in the second seat from the back, or he walks alone, but not really, I'm always here. The oldest post said he doesn't know I'm watching yet. One day he will. My fingers started shaking. I dropped my phone and just stared at it on the bed like if I didn't pick it up, the whole thing would vanish. But I eventually grabbed it and scrolled faster. Comments from random accounts said stuff like, "He's so cute. I love how dedicated you are. Haven't talked to him yet." Someone wrote, "I hope to meet one day." And another account replied with "soon." I wanted to throw up. I clicked one folder labeled "Future." Inside were planned posts. Dates in the next weeks and months. Captions written already. Him holding my hand today. Our first movie night. He surprises me with flowers. He meets my parents and they love him. Pillow fight at my place. He hugs me before we sleep. Future posts of things that never happened, like she already decided how my life would go. New messages appeared while I stared. Did you sleep well? How's your knee this morning? I heard it yesterday when I tripped. I worried about it. I didn't tell anyone I tripped yesterday. Nobody saw me. I fell behind a building on my walk home. She saw. She must have seen. My phone buzzed again. A video. I opened it. The camera was outside my bedroom window, zooming in, watching me sleep. The sound of breathing behind the camera wasn't mine. I slammed my curtains shut so hard the rod rattled. I locked my window, double-checked everything. I blocked the account. But 10 seconds later, another request came through from the same person with a different username. Then another, and another. Each profile full of me, like copies prepared just in case. Each one sending messages like, please don't block me again, or I just want what we both want, or I waited so long for you to notice. I tried to distract myself, but the notifications kept exploding nonstop. Dozens per minute. One message said she lied about social media. She said she only hides her real one, the fan page, the obsession one. My phone buzzed with a call then. Private number. I didn't answer, but the voicemail came through. Her voice. Soft. Excited, like we were together. She said last night was perfect. She said she recorded every moment of me walking to the restaurant. She said she has our whole story saved in folders so we can relive it forever. She said she knows where I keep my spare key, and next time I don't have to invite her in. She can come inside whenever like a real girlfriend. My stomach twisted so hard. I ran to my door and checked the mat. The spare key was gone. Someone took it. She took it. While I was eating ramen with her. I called the police but tried to explain without sounding insane. They told me to calm down and said maybe it was a prank account or someone trolling. I told them about the key being gone and they promised to send someone later. Later wasn't good enough. I grabbed duct tape and taped my windows and door seams. I sat with the kitchen knife by my bed all night. Every noise in the hallway made my heart stop. I kept refreshing the app and every time another account followed me. Around 3 in the morning, one message came through that was different. Not a compliment. Not a fantasy. A photo. Taken seconds ago. It was my apartment door, from the outside. Caption said, "Why won't it let me in yet? It's cold." I turned off my lights completely and waited. Footsteps outside. Pacing. Slow taps on the door. The sound of something metal touching the handle like a key testing the lock. Hours felt like years. The footsteps went away eventually, but I didn't sleep at all. The police finally came around noon the next day. They checked the hallway and said they didn't find anyone. I asked if they could track the accounts. They told me that takes time. Time is exactly what I don't have. Every morning I still wake up with new requests from her. New photos of me from today before I even check the mirror. New plans she made for us. And she still ends every message the same way. Don't worry. Tomorrow is the day our story really begins. Dating is such a joke sometimes. You think the worst thing that can happen is the conversation gets dry, or they look nothing like their pictures. Nobody warns you about the ones who already know everything about you before you even say hello. The ones who don't discover you on the app. They've been waiting. We matched and he seemed like one of the least weird people so far. Normal jokes, no creepy compliments, no random love poems on the spot. He asked if I wanted to come over for pizza and a film. I agreed, thinking I'd leave after a couple hours if things felt off. I even sent my friend his number and address just in case. It's what everyone tells you to do. His place was actually decent. Nice sofa, clean floors, stylish lamp. He acted nervous cute, not creepy. Asking if I wanted to choose the pizza toppings because he didn't want to mess up and get mushrooms if I hated them. That type of thoughtful thing that makes you think, okay, maybe this could work. He asked if I wanted a quick tour while the pizza was on the way. I said sure because why not? He had framed posters of movies he liked, shelves of books stacked perfectly, and this one hallway lined with picture frames. At first I didn't pay attention. I just thought they were artsy photos or Pinterest prints. Then I saw the first one that snapped me out of date mode. It was me. Me, like straight up me. Sitting outside a shop with headphones in. But the picture was old. I read the hoodie. It was the one I used to wear in year 11 before I lost it on a bus. My hair was shorter like before I dyed it last summer. That photo had to be at least 3 years old. I stared. My stomach twisted so hard I thought I would get sick right there. He came up behind me like nothing was wrong and said I always looked so happy then. I asked where he got that photo. He shrugged and said he saved it years ago because he liked the colors in it. He said I was his inspiration. I felt my heart beating in my throat, but I tried to smile like it was some dumb coincidence. Maybe he saw this on social media years back. Maybe he didn't know it was me until now. I tried so hard to logic it, but the next frame killed that hope instantly. It was a picture of me in my bedroom, my bed visible behind me. Me brushing my hair, curtains open just enough to see a window frame. Someone standing outside must have taken it. That window was on the second floor of my parents' house. I never posted myself in that angle ever. That shot wasn't stolen from social media. That shot was taken from outside my house, through my curtains. I stepped back so fast my heel hit the wall. I asked him where that one came from, trying to sound calm, but my voice cracked completely. He smiled small, like this was a romantic moment. He said sometimes people shine brightest when they're alone. I asked him how he got that picture. His smile got bigger, too happy, stretching his cheeks weird. He said he traveled a long time to find me. He said he watched me grow up from the outside, waiting for the day I would finally talk to him. Pizza notification buzzed on his phone, and he looked at it like nothing scary just happened. He told me pizza was downstairs with a delivery driver and he'd be quick. He said don't explore too much without me. Laughed like it was a joke. Locked the door behind him when he stepped out. I didn't plan to stay another second, but I had to get out smart. I heard his keys jingle when he shut the building door, so I had a tiny chance. I tried the front door. Locked. Deadbolt type. Needed a key on inside too. My chest tightened. I tried the windows, but his apartment was high, and they barely opened. I ran to the bathroom thinking maybe a phone somewhere else or a window that opened wider. But then I saw it. More pictures taped inside the bathroom mirror cabinet. Every one of me. Some grainy like taken from far away. Some scarily close like someone was inches outside of my glass. Me sleeping with curtains slightly open. Me sitting at my desk. Me laughing with friends. Me leaving school. Me walking alone at night. All different years. Different clothes. Different houses I had to live in. Different phases of my life. He wasn't joking about waiting. I grabbed his phone from the counter hoping to call someone but locked, and his wallpaper was my face. A photo I had never taken. He had messages pinned from someone named Caretaker. The preview said, "Is she ready now? Did she notice?" And another one said, "Make sure she stays." I heard footsteps coming back up the stairs. I panicked knowing the time was up. I scanned the hallway again. One frame near the door looked loose. I ripped it off the wall and behind it was a hole. Not like some secret passage. A spy hole into the next flat. And through it I could see something moving. Hands, shelves, and pinned on the opposite wall. At least 20 more photos of me. All printed and circled in red marker like targets. That's when I noticed something else. Small holes drilled next to every picture frame. All positioned to watch certain angles of the living room. He could watch anyone who stood there. Especially me. His keys jingled right outside now. I needed a weapon or something. The picture frame had a sharp edge, so I held it tight, hands shaking so hard I almost dropped it. He called my name in this soft voice, not angry yet. He said, "I hope you looked at everything I made for us." Us, like this was love or something. He opened the door with pizza in hand, smiling huge. I swung the frame at his head as hard as I could and sprinted past him. He yelled my name like I betrayed him. I flew down the stairs, skipping every step I could. I heard him chasing me fast, too fast. I burst out into the street and ran into the first shop with lights on. The workers called the police and I explained everything. I showed them the photos I grabbed. They went to his place, but he was gone. All the frames gone. Walls clean. Freezer empty. Like he packed with speed only insane people know. They said maybe he was a fan who took things too far. Fan. That word doesn't cover stalking for years and watching me sleep. A few nights later, I noticed new scratches on my bedroom window, like someone tried to open it. I keep curtains shut at all times now. I moved houses twice. New locks. New alarm. But sometimes I wake up certain that someone was watching before I opened my eyes. One frame from his apartment still sticks in my mind. The most recent one. Me standing outside the shop where we first met on the app. But the date scribbled on the back was from 6 months before I ever matched with him. Meaning he knew that place, knew I'd be there, and waited. I will never understand how one random swipe can turn into something that haunts your life forever. I wasn't even looking for anything serious. Just someone cool to hang out with, maybe watch a movie, maybe grab food. Nothing deep. She matched with me and instantly started complimenting me like crazy. Said I had really nice skin. I thought she meant my face, like a normal compliment. She kept going though. Arms too. Hands. Neck. She said some people would kill to have skin like mine. That line was weird, but I laughed it off because I didn't want to seem paranoid. We met at this fancy ice cream place. The kind where everything costs like $12 just because they add gold flakes on top. She hugged me immediately and her hands stayed on my arms longer than they should. She kept rubbing her thumb across my shoulder and saying, "Wow, your skin is so smooth." I tried to change the topic and asked what flavor she wanted. She didn't even care about the ice cream. She kept staring at my forearms like she was memorizing every inch. We sat down and she leaned across the table every few seconds to touch my skin again, like she couldn't help herself. She asked what lotion I use, what soap, what routine. I told her I don't even moisturize half the time. She giggled like I was being funny, but I wasn't. She got almost annoyed that I didn't do anything special, like I was wasting something she appreciated more than I did. She said the lighting here wasn't good enough and asked if I wanted to watch a film at her place instead. I hesitated because going to someone's house that quick is a risk. But she seemed normal enough besides the weird skin obsession, and I didn't want to be rude. She lived close by, so we walked. While walking, she kept brushing her hand against mine, then running her fingers up my arm again. Every time she did it, she whispered something like perfect, or beautiful, or lucky. Her apartment building looked old and kinda isolated. Only 2 floors, cracked bricks, no lights in the hallway. She didn't even check if anyone was around when she unlocked the door. The moment we stepped inside, she closed the door fast and locked it. 3 locks. Loud clicks echoing in the silent hallway. Inside, the place wasn't messy, but it was too clean. Like a show home nobody lives in. White walls, white couch, white curtains. Everything plain. Except one thing stood out. A giant framed picture above the couch of smooth, pale skin close-ups. Like an art gallery zoomed all the way in. I asked if she took that photo, and she smiled wide and said yes. She said she collects inspiration. She made us drinks and handed me one. I barely touched it. Didn't trust anything at that point. She sat close and touched my neck this time. Not soft romantic stuff. She pressed her fingertips into my skin like she was checking if it would peel. She asked if I ever had injuries growing up. I told her just small cuts and bruises. She bit her lip and said that's good. Untreated skin stays pure. I wanted to go home, but I didn't want to freak her out. I said I needed to use the bathroom. She pointed down a hallway and told me not to go into her kitchen because it was messy. She said it in a nervous way that made me curious instantly. The bathroom was clean and normal, so I flushed the toilet even though I didn't use it to keep the act going. When I stepped out, I glanced at the kitchen door. It was slightly open, like she didn't fully close it earlier. I shouldn't have looked. I really shouldn't have. But something in my gut told me I needed to know. I pushed the door open just enough to peek inside. And there was a huge silver freezer against the wall. Not a fridge. A freezer. The kind you see in butcher shops. The whole room smelled too cold, like chemicals and frost. I took one quiet step inside. The freezer door was slightly open. My heart was going wild, but I had to see. I opened the drawer nearest to the top. Inside were sealed plastic bags. Each one had a small, perfect rectangle of skin inside, labeled with dates, names, male and female names, some recent, some old, different shades, different textures, but all cleanly cut like little trophies. I almost gagged. I closed the drawer fast, but I bumped the next one, and it slid open. More bags, more skin, dozens. I backed away, terrified that I made a sound. I turned to run back to the living room, but she was standing right behind me, smile gone. Eyes wide like caught in the middle of something she didn't want me to see. She whispered, "Why are you in here?" I couldn't speak. My throat was locked up. She stepped inside and shut the kitchen door behind her. My body was frozen, but my mind was screaming. She reached out and touched my wrist slowly, like called me a scared animal. She said I shouldn't judge when I don't understand. She said everyone leaves eventually, but this way a piece of them stays with her. Forever. She lifted her other hand, holding something shiny. Not a knife. A scalpel. Tiny but sharp. She said mine would be special. She said she'd never read skin as flawless as mine. I didn't wait another second. I shoved her as hard as I could, and she fell into the freezer door. I ran out of the kitchen and grabbed the locks on the front door so fast I thought my fingers would break. She was screaming behind me, but the scream sounded more angry than scared. The second lock stuck for a moment, and I thought I was dead. Then it turned. I ripped the door open and sprinted down the hallway without even closing it behind me. I didn't stop running until I reached the main road. Cars passed by, and I waved one down and begged the driver to take me anywhere. I kept checking behind us the whole ride like she would pop out of the darkness chasing me with that scalpel. I reported it to the police, but they said they didn't find anyone in the apartment. Freezer gone. No sign she ever lived there. No trace of the trophies. Sometimes when I look in the mirror, I imagine her staring at my reflection, imagining cutting a piece of me for her collection. Sometimes I think about those labels, how each one had a date. Maybe she already chose a date for mine. Dating apps make everyone look cooler than they are. I'm guilty too. Filters, angles, trying to look like I've got everything sorted when really I'm just trying not to fail at my first year of college. So when this guy matched with me, I didn't expect much. But he seemed nice. A little too into photography maybe, but better that than someone who only texts dry one-word replies. He suggested brunch for the first date. Public, daytime, safe, decent plan. He showed up with his big camera strapped to his neck like he was about to take pictures of lions on safari. He barely said hi before taking a picture of me. Like literally the moment I smiled and waved, flashing my face. He said he wanted to capture our first moment. I laughed awkward because what else do you do when someone says weird romantic stuff 5 seconds into a date? We sat down and before ordering, he took photos of the menus. Then our hands on the table. Then the salt and pepper shakers lined up perfectly. I asked if he was doing a project or something. He said no, just documenting life. He said memories should be saved before they even happen. That confused me, but I didn't want to ruin the mood. Brunch arrived and he made me hold my fork a certain way, then asked me to pretend to laugh while eating. He kept saying things like this will look great in the future. I told him to just eat normally because the food was getting cold. He took one bite, snapped another picture of me chewing, and said that's going in the anniversary album. Anniversary. We hadn't even finished the first hour of meeting, and he was talking like we already had a shared life. Again, I thought maybe he had some weird sense of humor I wasn't getting. People can be quirky. Whatever. After eating, he wanted to walk around the town center. I agreed because I thought we'd talk more and maybe calm the camera obsession. Nope. Instead, every few steps he'd stop me and make me pose. Sitting on a bench, touching a shop window, pointing at a random bird, and every time I did anything naturally, he quickly snapped photos without asking. A couple walked past us holding hands, and he asked me to copy them. He grabbed my hand too tightly and held it up so he could take a photo of our fingers intertwined. He kept whispering, "Now it looks real." We walked into a bookstore, and he asked a stranger to take a picture of us. He positioned me inside his arm like we were already a couple trying to get our Christmas card done early. The person taking the photo even said something like, "Oh, you two are cute." He smiled huge, and I just forced a smile because it felt easier than explaining this wasn't what it looked like. I said I needed the toilet just to breathe alone for a second. When I came out, he was standing near a shelf scrolling his phone. The brightness let me see the screen clearly. I froze. He was uploading the pictures. All of them. And the captions. First brunch with my girl. She always makes me smile. Another memory with the love of my life. Can't wait for future adventures with us. Us. Girlfriend. Love of my life. But the scariest one wasn't posted yet. He was editing it. It was a picture he took when I wasn't looking, me checking my phone outside. He wrote, "Waiting for me outside our home someday." Our home. He'd already made it sound like we lived together. My stomach dropped so hard I felt dizzy. I scrolled up his profile while he was distracted. It wasn't a new account. There were older posts, but they weren't of him. Every picture was of a different girl. Different dates, different places. Each one had captions like she completed me, or our future will be perfect, or she doesn't know how important she is yet. Each girl appeared for a few weeks worth of posts, then suddenly disappeared from the feed like she never existed. Wiped clean. Comments from random accounts said stuff like lucky you or relationship goals. Nobody questioned anything. I looked at him. He noticed me staring and immediately locked his phone like he'd been caught doing something private but expected me to ignore it. He asked if I wanted to go somewhere more special. Somewhere beautiful to take couple portraits. He said he knew a bridge where he took all his favorite photos of memories yet to come. The way he said memories yet to come made my arms break out in goosebumps. I told him I needed fresh air and walked out of the shop. He followed close behind, camera already ready like he never took a break from the game inside his head. He kept clicking photos while walking, my shoes on the pavement, my hair from behind, my shoulder, my shadow overlapping his, and each time he said perfect under his breath like he was checking items off a list. I saw a bus coming and said I had to go home early. He stepped in front of me and said he wasn't done yet. He said we still needed to take our photo at the bridge for day one. I asked where that even was, and he pointed far down the road like it was a long walk. Then he said we go there every year on this date to recreate the picture. I pulled my hand back and said no firmly. His smile dropped completely for the first time, like a mask falling off. He looked angry, but more than that he looked confused, like he couldn't understand why I wasn't following the script he had already planned for us. He said, but I already posted about it. Everyone's waiting to see the rest of our day. Everyone, like hundreds of strangers who thought they knew me. He reached for my wrist again. I stepped back. I could tell he was deciding something. Something I didn't want to start in. I rushed toward the bus stop, and the bus doors opened just in time. He tried to follow, but I jumped inside, and the driver shut the doors. He banged on the glass with his camera, yelling that I ruined everything. He shouted, "Remember me." I tried not to look, but he stared through the window the whole time the bus pulled away, gripping that camera like it was alive. I blocked him the moment I sat down. Then I searched his name online. Nothing. No accounts. His whole profile was gone. Like the moment I left, he erased every trace of me from his page, just like he did with the other girls before me. The next morning, I woke up to a new message request from a weird account. No name. Just a blank profile picture. It was a photo of me from yesterday. The caption said, "You forgot to finish day one." First dates are supposed to be awkward in a cute way, like messing up popcorn or laughing too loud at the previews. Mine decided to skip the cute part and go straight to straight-up nightmare material. All because I thought going cinema would be the safest way to meet someone new. Public place, other people around, nothing crazy, right? Yeah, I was wrong. We matched a few days before. She had this playful vibe in messages. She kept saying she loves horror movies and how perfect it would be to watch one together because she likes to grab onto someone when she gets scared. Sounded innocent enough. She picked the cinema and even bought the tickets before I got there. I was thinking, wow, she's confident. Maybe this will be chill. The moment I arrived, she gave me a hug that felt like she was checking my pulse through my hoodie. She held on way too tight. She looked normal though, makeup a bit smudged, but whatever. She grabbed my wrist like she owned it and pulled me inside. I tried to ask what seat she got, and she just smiled and said, "You'll see. I make sure they're perfect." We grabbed popcorn and a drink I didn't really want, but she insisted. She kept looking over her shoulder like she was expecting someone to walk in behind us. I thought maybe she was shy or nervous. The theater wasn't that full, just like 10 other people. Normally, I prefer sitting up back where I can see everything, but she dragged me down to row 3. Super close to the screen. Neck-breaking close. I said, "Hey, maybe we can sit a little further back. Those seats are empty." She said, "Nope. These are best. Trust me." She said it like a warning, non-suggestion. So I sat. She sat on my left. She placed her bag in my right seat like she didn't want anyone near me. I noticed she kept glancing behind us, even though the screen hadn't even started yet. She whispered under her breath a few times, but I couldn't hear what she said. Lights dimmed for trailers. She grabbed my hand quick, locking her fingers into mine. Her nails were long and pressing into my skin like she wanted to leave marks there. I tried to pull slightly and she squeezed tighter. Then something touched the back of my chair. Soft at first, like someone bumped into it. I turned slightly to see behind, but it was too dark to make out any faces. I figured maybe someone was shifting around. The movie started. Big loud opening scene. She leaned her head on my shoulder, but then whispered in my ear too quietly to understand. Her breath was weirdly fast, like she was excited about something that had nothing to do with the film. About 10 minutes in and I heard it. A tiny giggle right behind me. Not the kind that fits a scary movie. It sounded like someone trying not to laugh out loud at a private joke. I looked at her thinking maybe she was laughing. She wasn't even looking at the screen anymore. She was staring straight ahead, but her eyes weren't focusing. They looked expectant. I shifted in my seat and the chair behind me creaked again. The giggle returned, a little louder, and I felt movement. Like someone crouched behind me and slowly lifted their head up. I tried to pretend I was stretching, turning to see. In the dark, I saw a shape just inches behind my chair. A person crouched low with their knees on the floor, head tilted up toward me. My eyes adjusted enough to see metal glinting. Scissors, long silver scissors. The person held them close to their chest, and the faint screen light reflected off the blade. They were smiling, teeth showing, their shoulders shaking like they were trying to keep their laughter quiet, but failing. My heart went nuts. I snapped my head around and tried to act like everything was fine, because I didn't know what would set them off. She leaned into me even more and whispered, "Don't worry. He doesn't bite. He cuts." My whole body went cold. I looked at her like, what the hell is going on? And she just kept staring forward with this frozen smile, like she practiced it in a mirror. I whispered that I needed the toilet. She didn't even react. Just nodded once, but didn't let go of my hand. I had to pull hard, and finally she let go. I walked fast up the aisle toward the door, but I swear I heard quick footsteps behind me. I looked back, and the crouching person wasn't there anymore. Gone, seats empty. She stayed sitting perfectly still. I went to the corridor and tried to text my friend, but of course the signal was trash inside. I looked at the exit doors, but then I worried if I left right this second, she might follow, or that creep with the scissors might already be waiting outside the screen. I peeked through the tiny window back into the theater. She was gone from the seat. The popcorn was spilled across my chair like someone left in a rush. I heard shoes squeak behind me. I spun around and she was there, standing way too close, smiling too wide. She put her finger to my chest and said the film's not over yet. She grabbed my wrist again and I tried to pull, but she dug her nails in. She dragged me back inside before I could yell anything. The crouching guy was back behind my chair when I sat down again, except this time the scissors were open, waiting. She leaned into me and whispered only one more scene. Then we can go. They're excited to meet you properly. I kept staring at the screen, but I couldn't focus. I watched shadows move behind me. The guy's breathing got heavier every time I shifted, like he was timing something. Something snapped in me. I stood up like I was going to be sick. She grabbed for my arm, but I shoveled past her. I didn't look back. I sprinted up the aisle, out the door, across the lobby, straight into the street without my jacket or the popcorn or anything. I heard her calling my name, but I ignored everything. I flagged the first car I saw and told the driver to go anywhere just away from there. I got home and locked my bedroom door. I checked my arm where she held me and there were little cuts from her nails, deep enough to sting. The next day, I searched the movie listings to find the time we went. It wasn't there, like that showing didn't exist. I tried to check if the cinema had cameras in the hallway, thinking maybe someone could confirm the guy with scissors was real. But when I called, the staff said those screens were under renovation and hadn't been open for weeks. They said nobody should have been in that room. I blocked her, deleted the app again. Every time I go near a cinema now, I feel like someone's crouched close behind me, holding their breath, waiting to laugh. I always thought the countryside was like this peaceful escape people brag about online. Cozy cottages, farm animals, quiet fields. Relaxing. I never thought I'd end up trapped in a nightmare out there with some guy I barely knew. But that's the thing, these stories always sound stupid until you're the one living them. We matched a few days before. He seemed normal, a little too excited about cars, but whatever, guys love their cars. His pictures were all him next to a fancy black car with different backgrounds, like he spent more time with that thing than actual people. He kept saying he wanted to show me something special. He begged for a country drive. Fresh air, good views, perfect date night. I hesitated because it was already getting dark, but he kept saying, "Trust me, it'll be worth it." That sentence still messes with me. Trust me, like he knew I'd regret it. He picked me up from my street. The car was spotless. It smelled new, the type of new that feels fake because the scent is so strong. He didn't want music, which was weird because long drives usually need something to fill silence. Instead, he wanted to talk nonstop about how much he loved driving far away from cities, away from crowds, away from noise, away from people. It wasn't romantic. It was like he was convincing himself more than me. The road out of town got darker fast. Streetlights disappeared one by one like the world went offline. Houses turned into long fences. Fences turned into trees. Trees into emptiness. No cars behind us. No cars ahead. Just pitch black except the headlights chewing through the road. He kept checking his phone every few minutes. Not to text. He didn't even unlock it. Just pressed the side button to light up the screen like he was waiting for something to appear. I tried to make conversation about anything else. Music, food, school, dumb stuff like that. He would smile, but his eyes never matched the smile. And every time the screen lit up, he grinned wider like he won something. After maybe 30 minutes, the reception on my phone dropped. 0 bars. Completely dead. I laughed nervous and said countryside really means no signal, ha. He looked at me and said that's the best part. He said out here nobody can bother us. Nobody can find us. Nobody can interrupt what we have planned. My heart dipped, but I tried to pretend he meant something romantic. In my mind, I was already imagining headlines about stupid girls trusting strangers. Then it started. His phone made a loud notification noise. Then another. Then another. I looked down at his dashboard where his phone was clipped in. I wasn't trying to snoop, but it was literally glowing in my face. The notifications didn't look like texts or social media. They were short and bold, and every single one said the same thing. New tar Jeep locked. Over and over. New tar Jeep locked. New tar Jeep locked. More and more, like 50 of them piling nonstop. I froze. He didn't turn the phone away. He didn't hide it. He just stared at the road like those notifications were normal, like his phone wasn't calling me a target. I joked weakly asking if that was some weird game. He didn't answer. He licked his lips slightly and whispered almost to himself they know we're close. We're close to what? My hands started shaking. I looked out the window and realized we weren't on a main road anymore. The pavement had turned to gravel. Trees pressed in close like a tunnel. The air felt heavy even from inside the car. I asked him calmly to turn around because I wasn't comfortable. He gripped the steering wheel harder but didn't slow down. He kept saying you'll understand soon. Almost there, like a robot. I glanced at his phone again. A new message popped up from someone named Hawk Nest. It said stop talking to her. Focus on delivery. My throat tightened. Delivery, like I wasn't even a person. Just something he had to drop off somewhere in the dark. I reached for the door handle secretly, my body doing its own survival plan. It was locked. I clicked the unlock button, but nothing happened. He must have locked the whole car from his side. The headlights hit a huge metal gate ahead. Rusted. Wide. Chained. He slowed for the first time since we left town. More notifications buzzed. Target arriving. Target arriving. Target arriving. He turned to me slowly like he was trying to memorize my face. He said, I'm glad it's you. It would have been sad if they picked someone else. I didn't think. I launched my body across the console and grabbed the wheel. The car jerked sideways, tires screaming. He yelled, but I didn't care. We smashed into a ditch off the side of the road. Airbags blew in my face and everything went blurry like water in my eyes. My door unlocked when the crash impact hit. I heard him groaning, cursing, trying to unclip his seatbelt. I crawled out onto the dirt with pain shooting up my legs. I didn't care. I ran. I didn't look back. I just ran toward any gap between trees. Behind me, I heard car doors slam. More than one. Voices shouting orders. Men. Multiple men. I didn't see them arrive. They must have been waiting in the dark. Headlights turned on deeper in the forest. Flashlights flicked between branches. They yelled codes like check left flank, target is moving, don't let her reach the road. Target. 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 Like I was prey. I stumbled down a steep slope and slid under some bushes. I held my breath so long I almost passed out. I heard boots running close. Twigs snapping. One guy's flashlight beam passed inches above me. They talked about how she can't get far with no signal and that she'll panic soon. I waited until their voices faded and then I crawled in the opposite direction. I kept going until the ground turned into an actual road again. I walked barefoot for ages until I found a farmhouse with a porch light. I banged on the door until an old couple opened up and stared at me like I was a ghost. Police came later. Never found the car. Never found the guy. They said the location we crashed wasn't even supposed to have roads. Like someone removed the map markers on purpose. They kept saying I must have read the notifications wrong, but I know what I saw. And that phrase still hits me in nightmares. New target locked. I sometimes think I only got away because he crashed too early. Like I wasn't supposed to survive yet. Maybe they're still looking. Maybe they think the job isn't finished. Sometimes my phone buzzes late at night. Unknown number. No message. Just silence. I thought I'd finally cracked the code to meeting someone normal. I wasn't even expecting a relationship or anything deep. Just a night out with someone who didn't turn out to be totally weird. We matched, got along quick, joked around. She suggested this bar she liked that was kinda hidden behind a noodle shop. I hadn't read the reviews, but she swore it was the best place in town. I didn't want to seem picky, so I said cool. The street outside the bar was super quiet, like most people didn't even know this place existed. When we walked in, the first thing I noticed was how the walls were painted dark red and black with random posters of punk bands and ads for beers no one has heard of. Low lights, loud bass, sticky floor. Not my ideal vibe, but I could manage. We sat at the small booth against the wall and ordered drinks. She ordered something with a name I can't even pronounce. I just got Coke with ice because I wanted my head clear since it was our first time meeting. She was pretty, like really pretty. Funny too. We talked about work, family, how we both hate small talk, even though that's exactly what we were doing. Everything was going all right until her first trip to the bathroom. She left her drink half full and said she'd be right back. I didn't think anything weird. People need bathroom breaks. But she took long. Like maybe 10 minutes. I was scrolling my phone pretending I wasn't waiting like an idiot. She came back acting normal. She apologized for being slow and said the queue was crazy even though like 5 people were in the whole place. I brushed it off. We went back to chatting, and it was fine until it happened again. She excused herself, saying she needed to fix her makeup. I checked my watch. Another 10 minutes passed. I was starting to think she regretted coming and was trying to find a way to bail. There was an empty seat across from me, and the wall behind it had this weird small hole near where the wallpaper peeled. I didn't notice it at first. The bar was dark, people laughed, drinks clanked. Normal stuff. But when she disappeared for the third time, right after just getting back, my attention wandered and I caught movement from that hole. Tiny, like someone moving on the other side of the wall. I leaned forward a little. The wallpaper around it was worn down like it had been touched a lot. I laughed awkwardly, thinking maybe I was just being dramatic. She returned again, a bit out of breath, asking if I missed her. I tried to joke, but inside, something felt wrong now. She kept glancing toward the bathrooms like she knew someone was waiting. When she sipped her drink, she kept her other hand in her pocket like she was holding something. I thought it was her phone, but she never took it out once. The 4th time she got up, she didn't even explain. She just stood mid-conversation, smiled, and walked quickly toward the back. I got annoyed finally. I wasn't going to just sit here like a prop in some bad prank, so I pretended to stretch and casually looked around. And that's when I noticed more of those tiny holes on the walls near other booths. One next to the bar counter, even one close to the ceiling near a vent. My drink didn't feel safe anymore. I leaned slightly to the right again and looked toward the hole near my table. I wasn't imagining it. There were eyes staring back at me. Human eyes. Wide open. They blinked. I jumped slightly and looked away, trying not to draw attention. My heartbeat went insane. I swallowed and counted to 5 before looking again. The eyes were gone, but I could hear faint breathing through the wall, like someone trying not to be heard. Before I could think of leaving, she came back, now acting way too cheerful like she had great news. She asked if I wanted another drink, saying the night was still young. I told her I needed the bathroom just to clear my head. She looked nervous for a second when I said that, but nodded. I walked slowly toward the back of the bar. The bathroom hallway had no music, just buzzing lights. The wallpaper was worse back here, ripped, nails sticking out, holes lining the walls at random heights. Some were tiny, some big enough to see through clearly. I leaned close to one and I saw a man's face staring out. Shaved head, hoodie, no emotions, just watching. When he realized I saw him, he stepped back into darkness. I rushed into the bathroom and locked myself in a stall even though the lock felt loose. I just needed a second to breathe. I heard someone in the hallway whispering, not her voice. Deeper, asking if I had noticed, asking if Target was spooked yet. I held my breath. I didn't even want to blink. Then a walkie-talkie crackled. I heard her voice. Not friendly. Not how she'd been talking to me. She said he knows. He's seen. We can't keep him here. The voice on the other end told her to stall me until they got into position. Position for what? I didn't want to find out. I waited until it was quiet, my hands shaking. I opened the stall door so slowly every squeak made me panic. In the hallway, no one stood there, but I could hear those tiny holes having whispers behind them. Multiple people. Radios. Short commands. I walked fast toward the front. She stepped out right in front of me like she'd been waiting for the perfect jump scare. She asked if I was okay, trying to guide me back to the booth. I told her I had to leave. She smiled like that answer was expected but not accepted. She reached for my arm. I jerked away and practically ran through the exit. The bouncer outside asked if everything was cool, but I didn't stop. I crossed the street and looked back. She stepped outside, watching me go, holding something black to her mouth. I could see the antenna, that walkie-talkie again. She mouthed something. I couldn't hear her, but I saw her eyes watching me like a hunter not done with their chase. I didn't go straight home. I drove to my friend's and stayed the night. I blocked her number and deleted the app. Weeks later, I read an article about that bar. The police raided it after people went missing from dates, secret rooms behind the walls, cameras, guys carving holes to spy on victims before they were dragged somewhere no one came back from. Her name wasn't in the article, but I still sometimes check the street behind me if I walk alone at night because she said the night was still young. I swear the universe hates me. Every time I think I finally found someone normal, life just puts me through something straight out of a messed up Netflix documentary. Like it started so decent with this guy. We matched on a dating app. He was cute, kind of nerdy, into movies and gym, seemed respectful, didn't come off too weird in the chats. He asked if I wanted to hang out one night and watch a film in his place. I know, classic horror story opening, but I'd been to guys' flats before and it was fine. I said sure as long as he picked me up and we could get food on the way. He shows up in this clean car, all polite, even opens the door for me like some old school gentleman. His place wasn't far, like 10 minutes through quiet streets. I remember thinking how empty the road felt, like nobody lived out here. The area had these old apartment buildings that all looked copy from each other, same brick walls, same tiny balconies stuffed with dead plants. He told me he liked the piece. I didn't think anything of it. He seemed excited. I thought it was cute. He kept saying how I'm going to love his family. I thought he was talking about pictures or something, since obviously nobody mentioned I would be meeting parents or siblings. I laughed it off and said I wasn't ready for family introductions yet, and he just smiled like I'd said something funny that only he understood. We grabbed burgers and headed into his building. There was this weird smell in the hallway, not like trash, but like those old clothes shops that keep mannequins in the back room. Plastic mixed with dust. I didn't know that smell would make me panic later. His flat door had 3 locks. Not like a normal front door with maybe one and a chain. 3 chunky silver locks lined up like he wanted to keep something inside or outside. He opened them slowly, and when the door creaked open, I could already feel something off. The living room lights were dim. Not cozy dim, but like someone unscrewed bulbs halfway. I stepped in, and that's when everything started getting weird. There were 4 mannequins sitting on the sofa, all of them dressed in wedding clothes. Full-on white gown, tuxes, bouquets like some store display from a thrift shop. Except they were posed like they were actually watching us walk in. One bride mannequin had her head tilted directly at the door like she'd been waiting for me. I laughed at first because what else do you do when you're staring at a fake wedding audience in a guy's living room? I said something like, "Wow, Halloween came early," thinking he'd admit it was a joke, but he didn't laugh. He walked over to them all proud and introduced them one by one. "This is Mom. This is Dad. This is my sister. And this is my brother-in-law." I stood there gripping my food bag so hard the grease almost leaked out the bottom. Their faces were blank, obviously, but the way he talked to them. He looked like he read something in their expression, like they had feelings, like they were really his family. I noticed there were rings on each mannequin's finger. Real rings, not cheap plastic ones. The dresses looked old, like they came from weddings that actually happened. I tried not to stare, but every detail made me more uncomfortable. The mannequin's plastic hands were placed together like they were a perfect family sitting for a portrait. He told me to sit down, right between his mom and his sister. I didn't move. I just said I'm fine standing. He insisted. His voice wasn't angry or anything, just firm, like he needed me to join them. So I sat. The mannequin's arm was stiff against my shoulder, and I swear the plastic felt warm like someone sat there just before me. I looked around for any sign this was a prank. Camera, hidden speaker, something. But no, it was just him acting like this was a normal night introducing his date to his family. He sat next to his dad and started asking them questions like, "What do you think of her?" After a few seconds, he nodded like he got answers. He told me they think I'm beautiful. He said his mom thinks I look exactly like someone, but he stopped mid-sentence like he said too much. I didn't want to freak him out by reacting too strongly. I said maybe we should eat in the kitchen instead, so we don't spill anything on the clothes. He shook his head. He whispered that his family gets lonely and they deserve company. He said they used to talk a lot, but recently they've been quiet, and he thinks they're upset with him. He looked at me like I was the solution to all his family problems. He asked if I wanted to see their wedding albums. Before I could answer, he ran into a side room and dragged out this old suitcase. He opened it, and it was full of photographs. Real wedding photos. Different couples. None of them looked like him. None looked related. He pointed to one picture of a couple smiling and said this was mom and dad on their big day. Then another of a different couple and claimed it was his sister's wedding. I flipped one over pretending to look at the date. Someone wrote in messy handwriting, "Property of Eric. Do not remove." Eric didn't look like the guy in front of me. But the mannequins, yeah, the mannequins matched the people in the photos. My brain started connecting dots I didn't want to connect. I asked where his real family was. He paused and said they're right here. He said people always wanted to separate them, but he found a way they can live together forever. My stomach dropped. I didn't want to sit there anymore. I stood up slowly, careful not to touch the plastic bride again. I said I needed the bathroom just so I could walk away and breathe. He pointed down the hallway, still smiling like everything was perfect. The bathroom door had no lock, and while I was inside pretending to wash my hands and trying not to throw up, I heard faint dragging sounds from the living room. Fabric scraping. Plastic tapping, like stiff limbs moving. I told myself I was hearing things because panic makes you hear nonsense, but it kept going. I came back out and the mannequins had shifted. Not a lot, but enough that I knew he hadn't touched them. The bride's hand was now on my chair. One groom's face was turned toward the hallway like he was watching me. He held his phone up like he wanted a picture of the whole family, including me. I grabbed my bag and said I forgot something in the car. Didn't wait for his reply. I speed walked to the front door, but all those locks slowed me down and I felt him walking up behind me. So calm, so quiet. Finally the door opened. I stepped out fast. He stood in the doorway holding one of the mannequin's veils in his hand. He said they like you. They really like you. He said next time we can dress you up too. Then he asked if I could stay longer next time so they don't feel sad when I leave. I muttered some excuse and rushed to the car. He watched the whole time, just smiling, no blinking. 2 days later he messaged me. Just one line. "Mom keeps asking when you're coming back." I blocked him. Haven't stepped near that street since. But sometimes when I look at old wedding photos online, I think about those mannequins sitting there like they're waiting for me. I always thought the weird stuff you hear about dating apps happen to other people. I'm not the type to get dragged into madness. I go gym at work, I chill with friends, normal stuff. I match with this girl, she looks normal too. Cute smile, nice messages. Nothing that made me think she was going to ruin my whole night and probably make me never trust another plate of food again. We've been chatting for like a week. She kept talking about how she loves cooking and how her food always tastes better when she makes it for someone special. I didn't think anything of it. People like to hype themselves up. She lives only like 20 minutes from me, in this tiny cul-de-sac with these identical houses all lined up like they copy-pasted them. She asked me to come over for dinner, said she was making something special. I thought cool, free food, maybe a good vibe. As soon as I walked up to her house, It already felt slightly off. No lights on except one in the hallway that flickered like those cheap horror movie sets. I expected loud music or something, but it was quiet. Not normal quiet, like the type where you hear your own breathing too loud. She opened the door fast, like she'd been waiting right behind it listening for my footsteps. She gave me a hug that lasted way too long for someone I had never met in person before. She smelled like too much perfume, like she sprayed half the bottle. She was smiling, but her eyes weren't smiling with her. It was hard to explain, like she was excited in the wrong way. She grabbed my hand and pulled me inside, but before I could even wipe my shoes. I looked around thinking maybe she lives with family or roommates, but the house was weirdly empty. No pictures, no stuff, just furniture lined up perfect like no one actually used any of it. She said dinner was ready and guided me to the dining room. That's when I felt the first real warning sign slap me in the face. The table wasn't set for two. There were 6 plates, 6 glasses, 6 forks and knives placed perfectly, like she measured the distance between them. Each chair was pulled slightly away from the table like someone had just stood up. I tried to laugh it off. I thought maybe she'd a big family who wasn't home yet, or maybe she'd grab she didn't need that many. But before I could ask, she said real casual, "Those are seats for the voices." I swear I just stared at her for like 5 whole seconds trying to process if she was joking. She wasn't laughing. She pulled out the chair next to her and told me to sit. I didn't want to seem rude, so I sat. Inside my head, I was like, okay, maybe she means podcasts or something weird. Maybe she's using a creepy joke as her humor. I wanted to believe that so bad. She brought the food out. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, vegetables, everything steaming and smelling actually good. She served me a plate, but she didn't sit down. She stood there staring at the empty chairs like she was waiting for something, like she expected someone to make the first move. I realized she didn't put any food in front of the other plates. They were just there, like props. I asked her quietly if anyone else was joining. She just smiled and said they're already here. They've been talking about you all week. They're happy you finally came. I froze. My fork stayed in midair. I pretended I heard something so I could play along. But right then, like perfectly timed to destroy my nerves, one of the chairs slid backwards on the floor. No one touched it. It just scraped loudly like some invisible person stood up. Another chair moved too, scratching across the floor an inch. Then another. The sound was like nails on a chalkboard, but worse because there was no explanation. My heart started pounding so fast I thought she would hear it. She sat down finally and leaned closer to the empty seat beside her, nodding like someone whispered in her ear. She said they want to know why you came so late. They said you should have been here yesterday. I didn't know what to do. I hadn't even taken a bite of the food yet. She grabbed her fork and started eating slowly while staring around the table like she was watching a silent movie. Then she said out loud, like she was answering someone, "He's shy. Give him time. He's not used to this." I kept swallowing nothing just to stop myself from freaking out. Then she put her fork down and stared right into my eyes. She said they're wondering if you believe in them. They think you don't. They don't like when people pretend. I tried to keep a straight face, but my voice cracked when I said I just need a glass of water. She nodded and pointed to the kitchen. I got up slowly like any sudden move might make these invisible dinner guests flip the table and drag me somewhere. When I walked into the kitchen, I grabbed my phone. No signal. Nothing. Not even one bar. Like the house was blocking it on purpose. I filled a glass of water, but every second felt like ages. I listened. The chairs went silent again. No scraping, just quiet. I peeked back into the dining room. She was standing now, not eating, just staring into the seat next to her with this blank face like she was listening to instructions. She said something under her breath, but it was too low to hear. I knew this was my chance. I pretended to sip the water and thanked her for the dinner and said I needed to grab something from my car. She didn't react. She just kept staring forward like she was frozen. But then she spoke so slowly. "Don't leave the voices halfway through dinner. They get angry." I felt something cold crawl down my back. I didn't even think. I just walked out the front door while she kept talking to the empty air behind me. I didn't run until I reached my car. The moment I locked the door, every light in her house flicked off at once. Complete blackout. Then, from the upstairs window, I saw her silhouette. Just her. Standing still. But next to her, I saw another shape. Like someone taller than her, shoulders too wide, head tilted like they were watching me leave. I don't know if my mind made it up, but it looked real. Too real. I drove away so fast, I almost crashed at the corner. When I looked back one last time, The upstairs window was empty. Later that night, she messaged me. She said the voices want to try again. They were upset I left. She said they think I'm rude. She asked if I heard them scraping the chairs just for me. I blocked her. Deleted the app. I'm still scared one night I'll read those messages again or hear chairs scraping in my own dining room when I live alone.